Hello students, so welcome to this video where we are talking about convolution theorem. It is in the context of Laplace transformation. As we all know that after MST we had one lecture where we discussed about convolution, what is convolution, and then we were continuing it. We were like about to continue it for using it in Laplace transformation, but we couldn't do that. So we will continue from this Laplace transformation thing. So I'll just revise what we have done in Laplace transformation till now. We had this what is Laplace transformation definition, then we had some properties of Laplace transformation, right? And to name, you had this first shifting property, right? You had linearity property, and you had what will happen if you multiply with x on the left hand side, like Laplace transform of x f of x, derivative on the right hand side minus dy by ds of f of s. Then we had seen what will be the Laplace transform if you divide with x, and so on. And after that we had Laplace inverse, and then we had done properties of Laplace inverse. So this is what we had done for Laplace transformation till now. Right, now let us see what we are going to do for where the convolution theorem comes into the picture. So if I ask you that you have this function fx plus gx and you want to take the Laplace transform of this function, then you tell me you have this linearity property, you can straight away do this thing, plus L of g of x, right? But if I give you L of f of x into g of x, right, let me not use this star because I am using it for something else. Dot means product. This is not equal to L of f of x into L of g of x, so we don't have this property, right? And we had seen that this property, first linearity property, it had made our life much simpler when we were finding the Laplace transform of different functions. So now we see, can we have some property which is similar to this property? Can we have something? This is not true. Okay, so can we have something like this? Okay, not exactly this. So this is what you do, right? If you go to a market to buy, say, something you like, maybe some dress you are looking for, if you don't get whatever was your exact choice, then you look for something which is a little bit lesser than what you were thinking, what you had in your mind, right? So that is what, so we are looking for an alternative to this, and here the convolution come into picture, right? So let us see what convolution theorem is. Before the introduction of convolution theorem, you should know what is convolution. So convolution is basically, I'll tell you, it is a function. Suppose you have two functions, fx and gx, right? So this is set of all functions, and if what I can do, you have these functions. Let me tell you in another way. This is a set of all functions, say f. So what you do, you take another set of all functions, same set means, right? Now you take one function from here, one function from here, right? Then you using these two functions, you define a new function, right? So can you think of anything you already know where you are using two functions to create a new function, right? We know that we can have f plus g as a new function. You know already that f plus g is equal to f of x plus g of x. This is a new function. F dot g is a new function, f of x into g of x, right? I can have another function like f divided by g. This is defined only where g of x is non-zero, right? Provided g of x is non-zero. So I already know some ways where I can use two functions f and g to create a new function. So convolution is one more technique to do so. So we define in a similar manner convolution, which is denoted as f star g, this is defined as f star g is a function, so it will be evaluated at a point say x. So this is equal to limits from 0 to x f of t, t is a dummy variable, g of t x minus t dt, right? Here you see you are integrating with respect to t, so t is your dummy variable. So when you integrate it with respect to t, when you integrate it with respect to t, you will get a function of x and t, and then you put the limits of t, these are the limits for t, right? Then you put the limits for t, which is lower limit is t equal to 0, upper limit is t equal to x. So everything will be a function of x only at the end. Everything at the end is a function of x, right? So this is how the convolution is defined, right? So let me give you an example that how we define a convolution. Suppose I give you a function, say f of x is equal to x and g of x is equal to e raised to power x, right? So convolution, what is f star g, right? So you can see f star g will be 0 to x f of t g of x minus t dt. So that is 0 to x f of t means f of x is x, so f of t will be t, g of x minus t, so g of x is e raised to power x, so g of x minus t will be e raised to power x minus t dt, right? So you can write it as, because you are integrating with respect to t, so your x is treated as a constant, so you can bring e raised to power x outside your integral. So this is e raised to power x 0 to x t e raised to power minus t dt. Now you know you can integrate it by parts, so you have e raised to power x first function integration of second function minus differentiation of first function, that is 1 integration of second function, that is plus e raised to power minus t 0 to x. Now you put the limits, when you put t equal to x, you will get e raised to power x minus x e raised to power minus x minus e raised to power minus x. When you put 0, this term will be 0 and this term will be plus 1, right? So you get it as, when you multiply, you'll get minus x minus 1 plus e raised to power x. So you see you had two functions, f of x is equal to x and g of x is e raised to power x, and when you convolute these two functions, you get a new function which is x minus 1 plus e raised to power x, right? So this is a way to get a new function, and this is how it is defined. So you can simply simply you can try f of x is equal to 1, g of x is equal to sine t. You can try what is the convolution f star g, try it yourself. F of x is equal to cos x, or here it is x, right? Whatever is the variable here. G of x is sine x. Then you can try what is going to be f star g, right? Okay, there are some properties for convolution, right? So some properties of convolution. Some properties like f star g is same as g star f, right? I'm not proving this, but I can just, okay, one I'll prove one at least. So you have f star g x is 0 to x f of t g of x minus t dt, right? Now I want to prove it, and here you see this property means that doesn't matter which function you are writing in the first place and which you are writing in the second place. This is commutative property and this is very important, right? So we want to prove, now we want to make it g star f, right? For that, what can you do? You want t here, right? So what we are doing, we'll substitute x minus t equal to another variable, say u, right? So you have minus dt equal to du, right? And now you want to change everything, into u, so it will imply that t is x minus u, right? and limits of t will be limits of u that will come from here. This is one thing. Another thing is from here we'll see this is another thing, and another thing is this is from here limits of t limits of u क्या होंगी. So you have at t equal to 0 your u will be x, at t equal to x your u will be 0. So you have limits as 0 to x to 0, right? Now you have u. Here in place of t you will write f of x minus u, and here in place of x minus t you will write u g of u, and here you will write minus du, right? So you see what you'll get. Now with this negative sign you can change the order of integration, not limits of integration. You can make the upper limit as lower limit and lower limit with upper limit with the negative sign. So you have 0 to x g of u f of x minus u du. Now you see what happens here. U is the dummy variable, doesn't matter what is the dummy variable. Dummy variable is a dummy variable. So this is g star f, right? By definition this is g star f. So you get f star g is equal to g star f. So this is how you do the property, that this is how you prove. It is quite simple. Similarly there are more properties, like you have f star g star h is equal to f star g star h. This is associativity. Then you have that if you take the convolution of any function with zero function, you will get a zero function. And then there is one more distributive, that if you take f star g plus h, it is going to be f star g plus f star h. Why I am writing these properties, that you can use somewhere when you are computing the convolution. This will make finding the integrals easy. So now is the time to write the statement for the convolution theorem, that is in the context of Laplace transformation. So let me write down the statement for convolution theorem, and in the next video I am going to prove it. I'll just write the statement now. Okay, so you see the statement says let fx and gx be piecewise continuous functions on 0 to infinity, right, and be of exponential orders. So it means that Laplace transformation for these functions is defined, and be of exponential orders. Then Laplace transform of f star g is equal to Laplace transform of f multiply with Laplace transform of g, right? So this is quite important. Here we were looking for L of f g. Can we replace we were looking for an alternative to this, which is not true. So here we say that in place of dot, if you have a star means convolution, right? Now you see the innovation behind this, right? Here if you replace dot with the star, which means convolution, then this property is true. So we have an alternative, and from here we can have f star g is equal to Laplace inverse of L of f into g of f, L of g. It means that if you have Laplace transform, like for example if you have something like 1 upon p minus 1 raised to power 4 into 1 upon p minus 7 raised to power 8, right, and I want to take the Laplace inverse of this thing. So till now what you know, till now if you want to take the Laplace inverse of this thing, what you are going to do, you are going to make the partial fractions, right? That is quite difficult because you see 4 power and 8 powers are involved. But now this theorem says that if you have product of two functions which are in p or s, then you want to take Laplace transform, then what you do, take the Laplace transform of the first function, inverse of the first function, right? Take the Laplace inverse of first function, that is call it f, and then take the Laplace transform of inverse of second function, call it g. Then Laplace inverse of the product will be the convolution of these two. We will practice these questions and we'll see that this is quite useful. So first of all we'll prove this theorem in the next video, right, and then we'll do